The clock on the spa wall ticked past midnight as Sophia walked slowly down the empty street toward her apartment. The cool wind brushed against her tired face, but her mind was still restless after seeing Ethan Miller earlier that evening. There was something about him, something she couldn't quite place. He wasn't just another client. But her thoughts were cut short when her phone buzzed loudly in her pocket. Unknown number, the screen flashed. Sophia frowned. She rarely got calls this late. With trembling hands, she answered. "Hello." A nurse's urgent voice filled her ear. "Miss Carter, this is St. Mary's Hospital. Your mother's condition has taken a turn for the worse. You need to come right away." Sophia's knees nearly buckled. "Oh my God. I'll be there. Please, please keep her stable until I arrive." She hung up, her breath shallow, her hands shaking. Without thinking, she ran down the dimly lit street, her footsteps echoing in the silence of the night. The hospital smelled faintly of antiseptic, its white walls cold and unwelcoming. Sophia rushed into the ward and saw her mother lying weakly on the bed, her breathing shallow, machines beeping softly. "Mom," Sophia whispered, tears forming in her eyes as she grabbed her mother's frail hand. Her mother's eyelids fluttered open, her lips curling into a weak smile. "Sophia, you came." Sophia tried to stay strong, forcing a shaky smile. "Of course, Mom. I'll always come." But inside, her heart ached. The doctors explained that her mother's illness was progressing faster than expected. Surgery was necessary, and soon. The problem? The bills were already overwhelming. And surgery would cost more than she could ever dream of affording. That night, Sophia sat alone on the hospital bench, staring at the estimate paper in her trembling hands. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered to herself. "How am I supposed to come up with this money? I can't lose her, she's all I have left." Meanwhile, across town, Ethan Miller sat alone in his luxury penthouse. The city skyline stretched before him, glittering lights, tall buildings, everything a man could ever want. Yet, Ethan felt nothing. He leaned back in his leather chair, closing his eyes. But instead of peace, his mind kept replaying the image of Sophia's calm smile, the way she had listened to him without judgment, the softness in her voice when she asked about his stress. Why was he thinking about her? She was just a masseuse. He had been with the most glamorous women, traveled the world, built an empire. And yet, one simple woman from a small spa had unsettled his soul. For the first time in years, Ethan couldn't sleep. He walked to the bar, poured himself a drink, and muttered under his breath. "Who are you, Sophia Carter? And why do you feel different?" The next morning, Sophia returned home, exhausted and broken. Bills lay scattered on her table, letters marked final notice piled up. She buried her face in her hands, whispering, "I can't do this anymore. I don't know how much longer I can fight alone." But fate was already weaving its threads. At that very moment, Ethan called his assistant. His voice was sharp, as usual, but underneath, there was a strange urgency. "Find out about the masseuse from last night. Sophia Carter. I want to know everything." By noon, a file landed on his desk. Ethan flipped it open. His brows furrowed as he read, unpaid debts, a sick mother, hospital visits, rent overdue. She was drowning, and no one was there to save her. Ethan leaned back, staring out the window. So, that's why there was sadness in her eyes. Something stirred inside him. Not pity, but something else, an urge he couldn't explain. He wanted to see her again. He needed to. That evening, Sophia was wiping down the massage table when the door opened. She froze. It was him. Ethan Miller. Her eyes widened. "Mr. Miller. You came again." Ethan gave a small smile, softer than before. "Yes. Let's just say, I liked the peace here." Sophia forced a polite smile, but her eyes betrayed the storm inside her heart. She couldn't afford distractions, especially not from a man like him. Still, there was something in the way he looked at her, not as a CEO, not as a client, but as a man searching for something. Their session was quiet, almost fragile. Words were few, but the silence spoke volumes. When Ethan left that night, he lingered at the doorway, glancing back at her one last time. Something in his chest tightened. The city was buzzing with life outside Ethan Miller's skyscraper office, but inside, the atmosphere was tense and quiet. Ethan sat behind his massive oak desk, staring at the file of Sophia Carter that lay open before him. Her story was written in numbers and medical bills, overdue notices and debts. To anyone else, it was just another struggling woman's file. But to Ethan, it was different. He couldn't shake the image of her tired but determined eyes, the way her smile masked pain, and the quiet strength she carried even while her world was crumbling. For the first time in years, Ethan felt something unusual gnawing at him, concern. He leaned back in his chair, muttering under his breath, "Why can't I stop thinking about her?" His assistant, Rachel, entered quietly. "Sir, your next meeting is ready." Ethan shook his head. "Cancel it. And book me a wellness session this afternoon. Same therapist as before." Rachel looked surprised. Ethan Miller never repeated anything, not meals, not vacations, not people. But she nodded quickly and left. Hours later, Sophia walked nervously into Ethan's private office at the top floor of Miller Enterprises. The room was breathtaking, glass walls revealing the entire skyline, shelves lined with books and awards, the air smelling faintly of cedar and expensive cologne. She clutched her small bag tightly, feeling out of place. "Mr. Miller, you wanted another session." Ethan rose from his chair, his presence commanding yet strangely gentle. "Yes. Thank you for coming." Sophia nodded, setting up her things, but she could feel his eyes on her, watching, studying. It made her heart race in a way she didn't understand. As she began, Ethan's voice broke the silence. "Sophia, tell me something, why do you work so hard? I mean, most people your age are out enjoying life." Her hands paused for a second before she answered softly, "Because life didn't give me the luxury of enjoying it. My mom is all I have left. If I don't fight for her, no one will." Ethan's chest tightened at her words. He saw no self-pity in her tone, only strength. And it stirred something inside him he had long forgotten. When the session ended, Sophia began to pack up. But Ethan's voice stopped her. "Sophia, wait." She turned, confused. His eyes were darker than usual, serious. "I want to make you an offer." Her brows furrowed. "An offer?" Ethan stepped closer, his voice calm, but heavy with meaning. "I'll give you $1 million, if you agree to spend one night with me." The room went silent. Sophia's eyes widened. Her bag slipped from her hand, landing with a soft thud on the carpet. "What did you just say?" Ethan didn't flinch. "One night. No strings attached. $1 million. Sophia stared at him, her heart pounding. "Is this a joke? You think you can just buy me?" Ethan's jaw tightened, his gaze steady. "I'm serious. I've never met anyone like you, Sophia. I don't want games, I don't want lies. Just one night." Her throat tightened as anger and disbelief surged inside her. "You don't even know me. Do you think my life, my dignity, is worth a price tag to you?" Ethan's expression softened, almost pained. "That's not what I mean. I know you need money. I read your file. I know about your mother. I can help you." Sophia's eyes filled with tears, but they weren't tears of gratitude. They were tears of humiliation. "You looked into my life? Without my permission?" Ethan took a step closer, regret flickering in his eyes. "I had to. I couldn't stand not knowing why someone like you works in a place like that. You deserve more, Sophia." Her voice trembled, but it was sharp as a blade. "No, Mr. Miller. What I deserve is respect. And right now, you've taken that away from me." She grabbed her things, her hands shaking, and stormed toward the door. Ethan called after her, his voice low, almost desperate. "Sophia, wait. I didn't mean to insult you. I just—" But the door slammed shut before he could finish. Sophia ran down the hallway, her chest burning. Tears blurred her vision as she whispered to herself, "How dare he? How dare he think he can solve my pain with money?" By the time she reached her small apartment, her body was trembling. She threw her bag onto the couch and collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. She hated him for making her feel small. But at the same time, the number echoed in her mind, $1 million. That kind of money could pay for her mother's surgery, clear all debts, and give them a fresh start. One night could change everything. But at what cost? Her soul. Her dignity. She buried her face in her hands, whispering through tears. God, what am I supposed to do? The night outside was quiet, but inside Sophia's tiny apartment, her mind was a storm. She sat at her kitchen table, the dim bulb flickering above her, staring at the stack of bills spread out before her. The words past due glared back like cruel reminders of her helplessness. She rubbed her temples, whispering to herself. $1 million, just one night, it could save Mom. It could save everything. But then, like a dagger to her chest, she remembered the way Ethan had said it, so casually, as if her dignity were a business transaction. She slammed her fist against the table, tears spilling from her eyes. No. I'm not for sale. I can't do this. I won't. Yet the cruel truth pressed harder. Without money, her mother's surgery wouldn't happen. And that meant losing the only family she had left. The next morning, Sophia dragged herself to the hospital. Her mother, Caroline, was awake and smiling weakly as Sophia walked in with a bag of flowers. Sweetheart, you didn't have to. You should be saving money, her mother said softly. Sophia forced a smile, sitting beside her. Mom, don't worry about that. I'll figure it out. I promise. But as Caroline drifted back to sleep, Sophia stared at her fragile face and thought, a promise means nothing if I can't keep her alive. She stood up and stepped outside into the hospital corridor. Her hands shook as she pulled out her phone. Her thumb hovered over Ethan's number. She had deleted it last night in anger, but his business card still lay crumpled in her bag. Her heart pounded as she stared at the card. Should I call him? Should I sell one night of my life to save my mother's? Before she could decide, a voice interrupted. Miss Carter. It was Dr. Jameson, her mother's doctor. His tone was serious. We need to schedule your mother's surgery soon. Waiting any longer could be dangerous. But the hospital requires the deposit up front. Sophia swallowed hard, nodding, though inside, she was breaking. I'll find a way. That evening, Ethan Miller sat alone in his penthouse, restless. He poured himself a drink, but it did nothing to calm his thoughts. He replayed Sophia's face in his mind, the way she looked at him, full of fire, anger, and disappointment. He sighed heavily, muttering to himself. You fool. You scared her away. She probably hates you now. But beneath his regret, there was also a strange determination. He had spent his life controlling every deal, every outcome. And yet, with Sophia, nothing was in his control. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. Hello. A soft, trembling voice filled the line. Mr. Miller, it's me. Sophia. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He stood up instantly, his voice softer than he intended. Sophia, thank you for calling. I didn't think you would. There was silence on the other end, broken only by her shaky breathing. Finally, she spoke, her words heavy with desperation. I need to know, was your offer real? The $1 million. Ethan froze, his hand tightening around the glass. Yes. Every word of it. Another silence. Then Sophia whispered, her voice breaking. Then maybe I don't have a choice. Later that night, Sophia sat on her bed, holding the phone tightly, her heart aching. She had agreed to meet him the following evening to discuss the terms. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, Mom, forgive me. I'm doing this for you. She opened her drawer and pulled out an old photograph of her mother holding her as a child. Sophia pressed the picture against her chest, sobbing quietly. The next day, Sophia arrived at Ethan's penthouse. The place looked even more intimidating than before, towering ceilings, polished marble floors, chandeliers glistening like stars. Ethan was waiting at the top of the staircase, his eyes fixed on her. He had expected her to look angry, maybe cold. But instead, she looked fragile, her shoulders heavy, her eyes swollen from crying. He stepped forward, his voice unusually gentle. Sophia, You didn't have to come. She raised her chin, though her voice trembled. I don't want to be here. But I need the money. For my mom. Ethan's heart clenched at her honesty. He wanted to say something comforting, but the words caught in his throat. Instead, he gestured toward the lounge. Let's talk. They sat across from each other, the silence suffocating. Finally, Sophia spoke. I'll agree. One night. But after that, we never speak again. And you never come near my family. Her words cut deep, sharper than she knew. Ethan looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, he wondered if he had made the worst mistake of his life by making that offer. But he nodded slowly. Agreed. The air inside Ethan's penthouse was heavy, almost suffocating. Sophia sat rigidly on the edge of the velvet armchair, her hands gripping the hem of her dress as if it was the only thing keeping her from running out the door. Across from her, Ethan leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees, his eyes fixed on hers. For a man who always looked so in control, powerful, untouchable, he suddenly seemed vulnerable. Sophia's voice was sharp, though it trembled underneath. You said you have a secret. Something I should know before I make my decision. What is it, Ethan? Why me? Why $1 million? Ethan inhaled deeply, his gaze dropping to the floor for the briefest moment before he met her eyes again. Because I don't have much time left. Sophia blinked, her heart skipping a beat. What do you mean by that? Ethan leaned back, his jaw tight. The doctors say I have a rare condition. A heart disease that even money can't fix. Surgery might help, or it might not. But the truth is, my time could be shorter than anyone realizes. Sophia stared at him, stunned. You're sick. He gave a faint, humorless smile. Surprised. The billionaire CEO who looks like he has everything, turns out he doesn't even have tomorrow guaranteed. Sophia's chest ached at his words. For the first time, she saw Ethan not as a powerful man trying to buy her, but as a broken man staring at his own mortality. But she also felt anger rising inside her. So, you're offering me money because you're lonely? Because you're scared? Ethan's eyes darkened, his voice low. I don't want pity. I don't need love. I just want to feel human again. To feel something real before it all ends. His words cut through the silence like a blade. Sophia's hands trembled, her throat tightening. She had come here prepared to hate him, to curse him for humiliating her. But now she didn't know what to feel. Sophia stood up suddenly, pacing the room. This doesn't make sense, Ethan. You could have anyone. Women throw themselves at you. Why me? Ethan rose slowly, walking toward her. His voice was quiet, almost pleading. Because you're not like them. You don't see me as money or power. You looked me in the eyes that night and saw a man. Do you know how rare that is in my world? Sophia's breath caught. His words shook her, but she tried to remain steady. That doesn't mean you can buy me. Ethan stopped just a few feet from her, his eyes soft. I'm not trying to buy you, Sophia. I'm trying to give you a choice that could save your mother, and maybe save me too. Her heart twisted painfully. Part of her wanted to scream, to walk out and never look back. But another part, the part that had seen her mother's weak smile and the unpaid bills piling higher each day, whispered that maybe, just maybe, this was the only way. The silence between them stretched until Sophia finally whispered, her voice cracking. I don't know if I can do this, Ethan. I feel like I'm betraying myself, my values, everything I've stood for. Ethan stepped closer, his voice firm but gentle. You're not betraying yourself. You're saving your mother. And I just want one night where I don't feel like a man on borrowed time. Her eyes filled with tears. She turned away, unable to look at him any longer. That night, Sophia went home more conflicted than ever. She sat at her desk, staring at the envelope Ethan had given her, a contract. Inside was the promise of everything she needed, money for her mother's surgery, for a new life, for freedom from debts. But every time she touched it, her heart sank deeper. Am I really going to do this? She whispered into the empty room. Her phone buzzed suddenly. It was a message from the hospital. Urgent, Please meet with Dr. Jameson tomorrow regarding your mother's condition. Surgery cannot be delayed. Sophia clutched the phone, her tears falling freely. The walls of her world were closing in faster than she could breathe. Meanwhile, Ethan sat alone on his balcony, staring at the night sky. His glass of whiskey remained untouched beside him. For once, he wasn't thinking about business deals or wealth. He was thinking about Sophia. Her anger. Her tears. The fire in her eyes. He whispered to himself, almost like a confession. Maybe this isn't about one night anymore. Maybe it's about her. The morning sun filtered through the blinds of Sophia's tiny apartment, but instead of warmth, all she felt was a heavy weight pressing on her chest. She hadn't slept all night. The contract Ethan had given her lay on the kitchen table, its crisp white paper like a ghost haunting her every thought. She picked it up again, her hands trembling as she stared at the bold numbers printed on the front page, $1 million. She whispered brokenly, one night could change everything. But can I really live with myself after this? Her phone buzzed suddenly, making her jump. It was Dr. Jameson. Miss Carter, his voice came through, calm but urgent. I need you to come in today to discuss your mother's surgery. We can't delay any longer. If we don't schedule it soon. Sophia cut him off, her throat tightening. I understand, doctor. I'll get the money. She hung up before he could ask how. At the hospital, she sat beside her mother's bed. Caroline's face was pale, her breathing shallow, but her eyes still sparkled with love when she looked at her daughter. You look tired, sweetheart, Caroline whispered. Are you taking care of yourself? Sophia forced a smile, blinking away tears. I'm fine, Mom. Don't worry about me. Just focus on getting better. Her mother reached out with weak fingers, squeezing Sophia's hand. You've always been so strong. Sometimes I wonder how you carry so much on those small shoulders. Sophia bit her lip, trying not to break. If only her mother knew the choice she was facing, if only she knew the price Sophia might have to pay. When Caroline drifted back to sleep, Sophia stepped outside into the hallway. She leaned against the cold wall, tears sliding down her cheeks as she whispered, I'll do whatever it takes. Even if it destroys me. That evening, Sophia stood outside Ethan's penthouse once more. Her knees felt weak, her stomach churned, but she forced herself to raise her hand and press the doorbell. The massive door opened, and there he was, Ethan Miller, dressed in a crisp black shirt, his expression unreadable. But his eyes, they softened the moment they saw her. Sophia, he said quietly. I wasn't sure you'd come back. Her voice shook, but she held his gaze. I don't want to be here. But I don't have a choice. My mother doesn't have time left, Ethan. He stepped aside, letting her in. The penthouse glowed with warm light, but to Sophia, it felt like stepping into another world, a world where choices weren't hers to make. They sat down across from each other, the contract lying between them on the glass table. Ethan pushed it toward her. The money will be transferred immediately once you sign. No delays. Sophia picked up the pen, her hand trembling so badly she could barely hold it. Her mind screamed at her to stop, but her heart whispered her mother's name. Tears blurred her vision as she whispered, Forgive me, Mom. Her hand lowered toward the paper. Ethan's eyes were fixed on her. He had made 1,000 deals in his life, signed contracts worth billions. But never had he felt so uneasy watching someone sign a piece of paper. At the last second, Sophia dropped the pen, her sob escaping into the silence. I can't do this. I can't sell myself like this, Ethan. Ethan's jaw tightened. He reached across the table, his hand hovering just above hers, but not touching. You're not selling yourself, Sophia. You're saving your mother. And maybe, you're saving me, too. She looked up at him, her eyes brimming with tears. Then why does it feel like I'm losing everything? The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Ethan leaned back, running a hand through his hair. For the first time, he questioned his own actions. He had thought this was simple, a transaction. But looking at her now, so broken, so torn, it didn't feel right. Sophia, he said slowly, if you don't want to do this, I won't force you. You don't owe me anything. She stared at him, shocked. Then, why are you doing this? Why offer me all this money, if not to get what you want? Ethan looked away, his voice low. Because I don't want to die without knowing what it feels like to be with someone real. Someone who doesn't care about the money or the name. And whether it's for one night or 1 hour, I wanted that with you. Sophia's heart clenched at his words. He wasn't the cold, arrogant billionaire she had imagined. He was a man drowning in his own fears, clinging to her like a final chance at life. But that didn't make her choice any easier. The night was cold, the streetlights dim, and Sophia wrapped her coat tighter as she walked home. Her mind was spinning, Ethan's words, his confession about his illness, the unsigned contract, everything felt like a storm she couldn't escape. She whispered to herself, God, I just want peace. Just one answer, just one way out. But as she turned the corner, she felt it, the unmistakable sense that someone was behind her. Her footsteps quickened. So did the shadows. Sophia's heart raced as she glanced back. A tall man in a hood followed her at a steady pace, his face hidden in the darkness. Panic surged through her veins. She clutched her bag tighter and hurried across the street. The man followed. Finally, she broke into a run. Her shoes slapped against the pavement as she darted into a narrow alley, her breath ragged, tears threatening to spill from her eyes. Please, leave me alone, she cried into the night. The figure stopped at the entrance of the alley, his voice calm but sharp. Sophia Carter. We need to talk. Sophia froze. How do you know my name? The man stepped closer, pulling down his hood. He was rugged, his face marked with lines of experience and bitterness. My name's Daniel. I know who you are, and I know about Ethan Miller's offer. Sophia's blood ran cold. What? How do you know that? Daniel's lips curled into a smirk. Let's just say I have my ways. And you should listen carefully, Sophia. That man isn't who you think he is. Her heart pounded. What are you talking about? Daniel leaned closer, his voice dropping to a sinister whisper. Ethan Miller destroyed lives to build his empire. Families lost everything because of him. And now he's playing the victim in front of you. Don't fall for his lies. Sophia's head spun. No, that can't be true. He told me he was sick. He told me. Daniel cut her off with a bitter laugh. Oh, he's sick, all right. Sick with guilt. Sick with secrets. You really think a man like him would just hand you $1 million out of kindness? Wake up, Sophia. You're just another pawn in his game. Sophia staggered back, her chest tightening. Why are you telling me this? Daniel's expression hardened. Because I've seen what he does to people. And I won't let him ruin you too. You need to walk away from him, before it's too late. Sophia ran home, shaken to her core. She slammed her door shut and leaned against it, her breath heavy. Daniel's words echoed in her head, poisoning the fragile sympathy she had started to feel for Ethan. Destroyed families. Guilt. Lies. Could it be true? Was Ethan just manipulating her the whole time? Her phone buzzed. A message from Ethan. Sophia, are you safe? Please call me when you get home. She stared at the screen, her fingers trembling. She wanted to call him, to scream at him, to demand the truth. But another part of her, the part scarred by Daniel's warning, whispered that maybe Ethan wasn't the man she thought he was. Sophia dropped the phone onto the couch and buried her face in her hands, sobbing. I don't know who to believe anymore. Meanwhile, Ethan stood by the window of his penthouse, staring out at the city lights. His chest hurt more tonight, the dull ache in his heart sharper than usual. He pressed a hand against it, his face tightening. Rachel, his assistant, entered quietly. Sir, your doctor called. He says you missed your appointment again. Ethan waved her off. I don't have time for doctors. Rachel hesitated. You should tell Miss Carter the truth. All of it. Before someone else does. Ethan's eyes darkened. She doesn't need to know about the past. Not yet. She already looks at me like I'm a monster. If she knew everything. He trailed off, his voice breaking. Rachel looked at him sadly. Secrets don't stay buried forever, Ethan. The hospital's sterile air clung to Sophia's skin as she froze in the hallway, staring at Daniel. He stood beside Dr. Jameson, his hands clasped behind his back, his posture calm, almost smug. When his eyes met hers, he gave her that same cold smile, a smile that said, "I know something you don't." Sophia's heart pounded. Why was he here? What did he want with her mother's doctor? As she approached, Daniel leaned in toward Dr. Jameson, shaking his hand firmly. Then, with deliberate slowness, he turned to Sophia. "Good to see you again, Miss Carter," he said smoothly. "How's your mother?" Sophia's voice trembled. "What are you doing here? Why are you speaking to my mother's doctor?" Daniel's smirk didn't fade. "I'm just making sure everything is in order. I have a personal interest in this hospital's affairs." Sophia frowned, her chest tightening. "What interest? What are you playing at?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "You really think Ethan Miller is your savior? Ask Dr. Jameson who funded this hospital. Ask him how many lives were torn apart when Ethan's company swallowed their businesses. Including mine." Her eyes widened. "Yours?" Daniel nodded, his tone sharp as glass. "My family lost everything because of him. And now, here you are, about to give up your dignity for the same man who destroyed mine. Think about that, Sophia." Before she could respond, Daniel walked away, leaving her trembling in the middle of the hall. That night, Sophia sat on her bed, staring at the ceiling, Daniel's words replaying in her head. Her heart ached with confusion. Could it be true? Could Ethan really be responsible for destroying people's lives? She thought about his confession, about the way his eyes had softened when he told her about his illness. She had seen pain there, real pain. But was it guilt? Or manipulation? Tears burned her eyes as she whispered, "Mom, what if I'm making a deal with the devil?" Her phone buzzed. It was Ethan. "Sophia, please. Meet me tomorrow. I need to explain everything." Sophia hesitated, her fingers trembling above the screen. At last, she typed a single word. "Fine." The following evening, Sophia found herself once again in Ethan's penthouse. She sat stiffly on the couch, her arms crossed, her eyes full of fire. Ethan studied her carefully. He could sense her anger, her distrust. What happened? Something's wrong. Sophia's voice cracked with emotion. "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me that people lost everything because of you? That you crushed families to build your empire?" Ethan's face went pale. "Who told you that?" "Daniel," she shot back. "He says his family lost everything because of you. That you're not the man you pretend to be. So tell me, Ethan, is it true?" Ethan's jaw clenched, his fists tightening at his sides. For a long moment, he said nothing, just stared at the floor. Finally, his voice came out low, heavy. "Yes. It's true." Sophia's breath caught in her throat. "You admit it?" He raised his eyes to hers, his voice thick with regret. "I did what I had to do. Back then, I was ruthless. I didn't care who got hurt as long as I won. I thought money was all that mattered. And yes, people suffered because of me. People like Daniel." Her heart broke as she heard the honesty in his tone, but it didn't ease the anger boiling inside her. So everything Daniel said, it wasn't a lie. Ethan shook his head slowly. "No. But it wasn't the whole truth either. Daniel's family, they made mistakes too. They gambled everything, and when they lost, they blamed me. I may have been the knife, Sophia, but they chose to walk into it." Sophia's tears spilled over. "Do you even hear yourself? You destroyed people's lives and you talk about it like it's just business." Ethan's own voice broke, raw and desperate. "I hate who I was. Don't you understand? That's why I'm different now. That's why I offered you the money, not just for me, but for you. I wanted to do something good before it's too late. I wanted to save someone, instead of destroying them." Sophia's chest tightened. She wanted to believe him, she wanted to reach out, but the image of Daniel's bitter face kept flashing in her mind. "Then prove it, Ethan," she whispered, her voice trembling. Prove to me that you're not the monster he says you are. Sophia's arms trembled as she held Ethan against her chest. His body felt heavy, his breath shallow, his skin clammy with sweat. The room, once elegant and intimidating, now felt like a prison, its glass walls reflecting the desperate scene of a man crumbling beneath his own secrets. "Ethan, stay with me," she cried, shaking him gently. "Don't you dare close your eyes." He tried to speak, but only a broken whisper escaped his lips. "Sophia, don't call anyone." Tears blurred her vision. "Are you insane? You need help. I'm calling an ambulance." His hand shot up weakly, gripping her wrist with surprising strength. His eyes, though clouded with pain, bore into hers with urgency. "No hospitals, please. Not yet." Sophia's chest tightened. "Why? Why would you say that? You could die." Ethan's face twisted, his words coming out in gasps. "Because, if the world finds out how bad I am, the board will use it. They'll take everything. And Daniel will win." The sound of his name made Sophia's stomach knot. Daniel's shadow was everywhere now, lurking behind every truth and lie. But at that moment, none of it mattered. "You're going to die, Ethan," she sobbed, brushing his damp hair from his forehead. "I don't care about your board. I don't care about your empire. I just can't watch you like this." She dialed emergency services, ignoring his protests, her voice trembling as she begged for help. The minutes felt like hours before the paramedics arrived. They lifted Ethan onto a stretcher, their faces grim as they checked his vitals. Sophia followed, her heart racing, her hands refusing to let go of his. At the hospital, she sat in the waiting room, her body numb, her eyes swollen from crying. Every second that passed felt like a cruel punishment. Memories of Ethan's confession, his ruthless past, his fragile truth, all mixed with the image of his body collapsing into hers. "Why am I feeling this?" she whispered to herself. "Why do I care so much about a man I should hate?" Her thoughts were interrupted when Dr. Jameson entered, his expression serious. "Sophia," he said gently. "He's stable for now. But his condition is worse than he's been letting on. Ethan's been avoiding treatments, ignoring medications. His heart is weak, very weak." Sophia's throat tightened. How long does he have?" Dr. Jameson sighed. "It's difficult to say. But if he doesn't start fighting for himself, not long." Sophia covered her mouth, a sob escaping her lips. Hours later, she was finally allowed to see him. Ethan lay in the hospital bed, pale but awake. His eyes flickered open when she entered, and for the first time, there was no mask, no CEO's armor, just a broken man staring at the one person he feared losing most. "You shouldn't have called them," he rasped. Sophia ignored his words and sat beside him, her hand brushing over his. "Do you ever stop pretending you don't need anyone?" she asked softly, her tears glistening in the dim light. He swallowed hard, his voice weak but honest. "I stopped needing people a long time ago. Everyone I let close, they left. Or I pushed them away. You're the first person who ever stayed long enough to see through me." Sophia's heart ached at his words. "Then stop pushing me away, Ethan. Stop lying. Stop hiding. Just let me in." For a moment, silence hung between them, heavy and fragile. Then, Ethan's eyes softened, his voice breaking. "If I let you in, Sophia, you'll see things you can never forget. You'll see the man I was. And you'll hate me." She squeezed his hand tighter, her own tears falling. "Then give me the choice. Don't let Daniel poison me with half-truths. Tell me everything yourself." Ethan closed his eyes, his face etched with pain, not from his body, but from his soul. Later that night, Sophia sat by his bedside as he slept. The rhythmic beeping of the monitor was the only sound in the room, a constant reminder of how fragile his life had become. As she watched him, memories of Daniel's warning haunted her. His words echoed in her mind, "Ethan Miller destroys lives. Don't let him destroy yours." But as she looked at Ethan's pale face, the rise and fall of his chest, she realized something Daniel could never understand. Even if Ethan was guilty of sins, he was still human. Still broken. Still in need of someone who believed in the man he could be, not the man he was. Sophia leaned forward, brushing a kiss across his hand, whispering through her tears. Don't you dare leave me. Not like this. Not when I haven't figured out who you really are. The hospital room was dim, the steady beep-beep of the heart monitor echoing in the silence. Ethan lay unconscious, his face pale against the white pillow. His chest rose and fell slowly, every breath sounding like a battle. Sophia sat by his side, her fingers clutching his hand tightly, when the door creaked open. At first, she thought it was a nurse. But as her eyes lifted, her entire body stiffened. Daniel. He stepped inside, his tall frame casting a shadow across the room. His expression was unreadable, part bitterness, part triumph, part something she couldn't quite place. What are you doing here? Sophia whispered harshly, rising to her feet. Daniel closed the door behind him with deliberate calm. I could ask you the same thing. Sitting here, holding his hand, like he's some kind of saint. Have you forgotten everything I told you? Sophia's heart pounded. She positioned herself between Ethan and Daniel, as if instinctively shielding the fragile man on the bed. He's sick, Daniel. He almost died tonight. This isn't the time for whatever game you're playing. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Game? This isn't a game, Sophia. This is your life. Don't you see? He's manipulating you, the same way he manipulated the world. He doesn't deserve your tears, your care, or your love. Sophia's breath caught. His last word cut deeper than she expected. Love. Did she? Was that what this ache inside her was? She shook her head fiercely. You don't know what's in his heart. Daniel's voice sharpened, his bitterness spilling out like poison. I know exactly what's in his heart. Greed. Power. Lies. My father trusted Ethan. He invested everything he had into Miller Enterprises. And when Ethan wanted control, he crushed him. My father lost his company, his dignity, his will to live. He died believing Ethan Miller had destroyed him. Sophia froze, her chest tightening. I didn't know. Daniel stepped closer, his eyes burning with fury and pain. No, you didn't. Because Ethan will never tell you the whole truth. He'll tell you half stories, sprinkle in just enough pain to make you pity him. But underneath it, he's still the same man, ruthless, cold, and willing to buy people's souls for a price. He offered you $1 million, didn't he? Sophia's lips parted in shock. How do you know about that? Daniel smirked. Because that's who he is. He thinks money fixes everything. He thinks every person has a price. Don't you see, Sophia? You're just another transaction to him. Her eyes burned with tears, her voice breaking. You don't understand, it wasn't like that. Daniel's gaze softened for just a flicker of a moment. Don't fool yourself. You're a good person, Sophia. Too good for him. That's why I'm here, to stop you from falling into his trap. Because if you stay, he will destroy you like he destroyed me. Sophia staggered back, her heart torn in two. Daniel's pain was raw, real. His story was heartbreaking, but so was the sight of Ethan, weak, fragile, clutching to life on the bed behind her. She turned to look at Ethan. Even in his unconscious state, he looked vulnerable, almost childlike. Could this really be the same man Daniel painted as a monster? Tears spilled down her cheeks. I don't know who to believe anymore. Daniel stepped closer, lowering his voice. Believe me. Leave him. Walk away now before it's too late. Save yourself, and your mother. Sophia's eyes snapped to his. My mother. What does she have to do with this? Daniel hesitated, his jaw tightening. For the first time, his composure cracked. Ask yourself, why do you think Ethan suddenly appeared in your life? Do you think it's fate? Or do you think he knew exactly who you were all along? Sophia's stomach dropped. What are you saying? Daniel's eyes burned into hers. I'm saying he's not here by accident. He knows about your mother. He knows about her illness. And he's using it to get to you. Sophia's hand shook violently, her knees almost buckling beneath her. No, that can't be true. Daniel leaned closer, his voice a whisper of venom. Think about it. A billionaire CEO just happens to walk into your small massage clinic? Just happens to take interest in you? Wake up, Sophia. He chose you for a reason. Her world spun. The room tilted. She stumbled back against the wall, her breaths shallow and quick. Could it be true? Had Ethan known about her mother all along? Daniel turned toward the door, his words slicing the air one last time. Stay if you want. But remember this, Ethan Miller doesn't save people. He uses them. And when he's done, he leaves them broken. With that, Daniel walked out, the door shutting behind him with a hollow click. Sophia collapsed into the chair, her body trembling. She stared at Ethan's face, pale and fragile on the hospital bed, her heart shattering under the weight of doubt. Was Daniel right? Had Ethan chosen her for a reason that had nothing to do with love, and everything to do with control? Sophia's heart thundered in her chest as Ethan stirred awake. His face was pale, beads of sweat clinging to his forehead, but his eyes, weak as they were, fixed on hers with an intensity that made her breath hitch. Sophia, his voice cracked, raspy. I need to tell you the truth. About how we met. Sophia's fingers tightened around the armrest of the chair. Daniel's voice still echoed in her ears. Do you really think it was an accident? He chose you for a reason. She forced her voice to stay steady. I'm listening. Ethan swallowed hard, his chest rising and falling in shallow breaths. That night, when I came to your clinic, it wasn't an accident. Sophia's stomach dropped, her pulse quickening. You knew me before that. His gaze softened, full of regret. Yes. I knew of you. Sophia felt her body go cold, her arms wrapping around herself protectively. Why? Why me? Out of all the people in this city, why did you come to me? Ethan looked away, his jaw tight, as though the words themselves were sharp enough to cut him. I read about you, Sophia. About your mother. About how you've been struggling, working day and night, doing everything alone. I saw myself in you. The younger me. Desperate. Willing to sacrifice everything just to survive. Sophia blinked, her throat burning. You researched me. His eyes darted back to hers, full of guilt. Yes, I did. At first, it wasn't about you. It was about me. I wanted to feel like I was doing something good. For once. I thought if I helped someone like you, I could silence the ghosts that haunt me. Her tears fell freely now, her heart aching with betrayal. So Daniel was right. You targeted me. You didn't walk into my clinic by chance. You planned it. Ethan's voice cracked, his eyes desperate. No, Sophia. That's how it started, yes. But that's not why I stayed. Don't you see? The moment I met you, everything changed. You weren't just some project, some way to cleanse my conscience. You became everything. You're the first person in years who sees me as more than a name, more than money. Sophia shook her head, her voice trembling. I don't know if I can believe you. Every time I think I understand you, another secret comes out. Do you even realize how much you've hurt me with your half-truths? Ethan's eyes welled with tears. He reached weakly for her hand, his voice breaking. I know. And I hate myself for it. But please believe me when I say this, whatever reason brought me to you. I stayed because of who you are. Not because of your pain. Because of your strength. Sophia's lips quivered as she whispered. Then why offer me the money? Why make everything between us feel like a transaction? Ethan closed his eyes, his jaw trembling as he tried to steady his breath. Because I thought it was the only way to keep you close. I thought, if I gave you a reason, you wouldn't walk away. I didn't know how else to ask you to stay. Sophia's chest tightened painfully. His words were raw, almost childlike in their desperation. And yet, the cracks of manipulation still echoed. You can't buy people, Ethan, she said softly, pulling her hand back. Not their time, not their love, not their forgiveness. If you really wanted me to stay, you should have trusted me with the truth. Ethan's face crumpled, his breath shuddering as tears slipped down his cheeks. For a man who had built empires, who commanded power with a single word, The sight of him breaking in front of her was both heartbreaking and terrifying. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Sophia turned away, her mind torn between anger and compassion. Daniel's words lingered like poison. He doesn't save people. He uses them. But when she looked at Ethan now, fragile and broken, she couldn't reconcile that monster with the man lying before her. Finally, she stood, her voice trembling. I need time, Ethan. Time to think. Time to figure out if I can forgive you, or if I should walk away. Ethan's eyes widened in panic. No, please, Sophia. Don't leave. Not now. I don't have much time left. If you walk away, I don't think I'll survive it. Her heart shattered at his words, but she forced herself toward the door. You've survived worse, Ethan. You'll survive this too. She stepped into the hallway, her tears falling freely, her chest heaving with sobs she could no longer contain. The hospital hallway was quiet, except for the distant echo of footsteps and the faint hum of fluorescent lights. Sophia's body stiffened as Daniel's hand gripped her arm, his face shadowed and intense. She pulled back slightly, her voice shaky. Let me go, Daniel. I don't want to hear any more lies. Daniel's eyes narrowed, his voice sharp but low. Lies? Do you think I'm lying to you, Sophia? Haven't I told you the truth every time, even when it hurt? Sophia's throat tightened. His bitterness was undeniable, but so was his pain. She had seen it in his eyes when he spoke of his father. Ethan already told me, she said softly, almost defensively. He admitted he came to me on purpose. He admitted he hurt people. Isn't that enough? Daniel shook his head, his jaw clenched. No. That's just the surface. That's the version he wants you to know, the one that still leaves room for you to pity him. But there's more. So much more. Her heart pounded, fear and curiosity twisting inside her. What more could there be? Daniel leaned in closer, his words slow and deliberate. Ethan Miller didn't just ruin my father's company. He destroyed lives in ways you can't imagine. There was a deal years ago, a pharmaceutical acquisition. Ethan cut corners, forced the company into his control, and when the dust settled, the medicine they produced never reached the people who needed it. Sophia's breath caught. What are you saying? Daniel's eyes darkened, his voice almost trembling with rage. I'm saying people died, Sophia. Children. Families. All because Ethan wanted power and profits. And your mother, he hesitated, watching her reaction. Sophia's blood ran cold. My mother, she whispered, barely able to form the word. Daniel nodded grimly. Your mother's illness, the medication that could have helped her years ago, it was part of that deal. Ethan's company buried it. Do you understand now? He didn't just find you by accident. He's tied to your life in ways you can't even imagine. Sophia staggered back, her knees threatening to give out. Her mind reeled, images of her mother's suffering flashing before her eyes. Could it be true? Could Ethan, the man who had begun to mean so much to her, be the very reason her mother had suffered for so long? No, she whispered, shaking her head in denial. That can't be true. You're just trying to turn me against him. Daniel's expression hardened, but there was a flicker of sorrow in his eyes. I wish it weren't true. But I've seen the documents. I've lived the consequences. My father wasn't the only one Ethan destroyed. You and your mother, you were collateral damage in his empire. Sophia pressed her hands against her temples, tears spilling down her cheeks. The hallway blurred around her, the weight of Daniel's words pressing down like chains. Her voice cracked. Why would he hide this from me? Why not just tell me everything? Daniel's answer was bitter and sharp. Because if you knew the full truth, you'd never look at him again. And he can't bear to lose you, not now, not when he's desperate. Sophia's chest heaved, her breath shallow. She wanted to run, to scream, to confront Ethan, but at the same time, part of her wanted to curl up and disappear. Daniel stepped closer, his voice softening, almost gentle now. You deserve better, Sophia. You deserve honesty. You deserve someone who won't tie your pain to their ambition. Walk away from him, before this destroys you too. Sophia finally pulled away, shaking her head. I can't. I can't just leave. Not without hearing it from him. I need to know if what you're saying is true. Daniel's jaw tightened. Then ask him. But remember this, men like Ethan don't change. They'll cry, they'll beg, they'll promise the world, but in the end, they'll always choose themselves. He turned and walked down the hallway, leaving Sophia standing there, broken and trembling. When she returned to Ethan's room, he was awake, his eyes searching for her the moment she entered. Relief flickered across his face. Sophia, you came back. Her throat closed, her heart torn in two. She stood at the foot of his bed, her eyes glistening with tears. I need to ask you something, Ethan. And I need you to swear you'll tell me the truth. Ethan's expression sobered instantly. He nodded weakly. I swear. Sophia's voice trembled as she spoke the words that could shatter everything between them. Did your company have anything to do with the medication my mother never got? Did you bury something that could have saved her? Ethan's face went white. His lips parted, but no sound came. His silence was louder than any answer. Sophia stood frozen at the foot of Ethan's hospital bed. Her question still hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Did your company have anything to do with the medication my mother never got? Ethan's silence had already spoken volumes. His face was pale, his chest rising and falling with shallow breaths, but his eyes were drowning in guilt. Sophia's tears streamed freely as she whispered, almost to herself. Oh my God, it's true. She turned away, covering her face with trembling hands, her sobs filling the room. Ethan tried to sit up, grimacing in pain, his voice hoarse and desperate. Sophia, please, let me explain. It's not what you think. She spun around, her grief mingled with fury. Not what I think. Ethan, my mother died waiting for a medicine that never came. Do you understand what it's like to sit by her bedside, holding her hand, knowing there's nothing you can do? To hear doctors whisper about a treatment that existed but was always just out of reach? And now you're telling me your company was behind it. Her words sliced through the air, each one heavier than the last. Ethan's lips trembled as tears welled in his eyes. For a man who once commanded boardrooms with iron will, he looked more fragile than she'd ever seen. You're right, he whispered. The medicine existed. And yes, it was tied to my company. But, Sophia, I swear to you, I didn't know about your mother then. I didn't even know your name. Her hands balled into fists. That doesn't matter, Ethan. People suffered. My mother suffered. And you were at the top while families like mine were left to rot. Ethan's voice cracked, his emotions spilling over. I was young, hungry, ruthless. I thought I was saving the company, protecting jobs, securing the future. But in doing that, I let things happen that should never have happened. Corners were cut. Approvals delayed. And yes, people paid the price. Your mother among them. Sophia felt her knees weaken, her chest tightening as she gasped for breath. So you admit it. You admit my mother's suffering was part of your empire. Ethan nodded slowly, his tears slipping down his cheeks. Yes. And I've lived with that guilt every single day since I found out. Sophia, when I finally saw your name in those records, when I realized what my company had cost you, I broke. That's why I came to your clinic. That's why I sought you out. Not to use you. Not to manipulate you. But because I needed to make it right. I needed to give you back some of what was stolen from you. Sophia's heart twisted painfully. His words carried the weight of truth, but also the sting of betrayal. Make it right, she choked out. You think money makes it right? You think your presence makes it right? Nothing can give me back the years I lost with her. Nothing. Ethan reached out, his hand trembling. I know. I can't bring her back. I can't undo the pain. But I can love you, Sophia. I can love you with everything I have left. Not because of guilt, not because I owe you, because you are the only person who has ever made me want to be better. Her tears fell faster, her heart warring with itself. She wanted to believe him, to cling to the love they had built, but the shadow of her mother's suffering loomed between them like an unmovable wall. Sophia shook her head, her voice breaking. I don't know if I can forgive you, Ethan. Loving you feels like betraying her. How do I choose between my heart and my conscience? Ethan's face crumpled, his strength fading. His voice was barely above a whisper now. Then don't choose yet. Just stay. Let me prove to you that I'm not the man I was. Let me prove that the love I feel for you is real. The room went quiet, save for Sophia's sobs and Ethan's labored breathing. The weight of his confession hung between them, threatening to suffocate them both. Finally, Sophia staggered back, wiping her tears with trembling hands. I need air, she whispered. I can't breathe in here. She rushed out of the room, her footsteps echoing down the hallway, her mind spiraling with questions and pain. Ethan watched her leave, his chest aching not just from his wounds but from the fear that she might never return. He closed his eyes, whispering to the empty room. Please, God, don't let this be the end. The next morning, Sophia stood in front of her mirror, her reflection pale and hollow-eyed. She had barely slept, Ethan's confession replayed endlessly in her mind, his voice heavy with guilt, his eyes drenched in regret. Your mother among them. The words echoed in her chest like a cruel refrain. But it wasn't just Ethan's confession haunting her. It was the phone call. The unknown voice that had whispered about the whole truth. Sophia's hands shook as she slipped on her coat. She knew she shouldn't go, meeting a stranger alone was dangerous. But something deep inside her demanded answers. She needed to know everything. The cafe was quiet that morning, tucked away on a side street, half its chairs still stacked on tables. Sophia stepped inside, the smell of fresh coffee and pastries wrapping around her like a false comfort. In the corner sat a man she didn't recognize. Mid-40s, sharp suit, thinning hair, and a pair of eyes that watched her with unsettling precision. He raised his hand slightly, signaling her over. Her pulse quickened as she approached. Are you the one who called me? She asked, her voice low. The man nodded, gesturing for her to sit. My name is Richard Hale. I used to work for Ethan Miller. In fact, I was there the day your mother's fate was sealed. Sophia's stomach twisted. She clutched her hands in her lap, forcing herself to stay calm. Why are you telling me this? Richard leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. Because I can't carry the guilt anymore. Ethan might have told you part of the story, but he didn't tell you everything. The decision to bury that medicine wasn't just a mistake. It was intentional. Ethan signed the papers himself. Sophia's eyes widened, her breath catching in her throat. No, he said he didn't know until later. Richard shook his head. He lied. I was in the room, Sophia. He was warned. He knew delaying that approval would cost lives, but he did it anyway. Why? Because another deal, one worth billions, was on the line. And he chose money over people. Sophia's heart pounded, her world spinning. She wanted to scream, to deny it, but the man's steady gaze pinned her in place. You're lying, she whispered, her voice breaking. You have to be lying. Richard's face softened, a shadow of sorrow crossing his features. I wish I were. But you needed to know. Ethan isn't the man you think he is. He may love you now, but you'll always be standing on the ashes of what he destroyed. Sophia's tears blurred her vision. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I can't listen to this. She rushed out of the cafe, the cold morning air slapping against her wet cheeks. Back at the hospital, Ethan stirred when she entered his room. Relief flickered in his eyes, but he quickly noticed the storm raging across her face. Sophia. What happened? You look. Don't, she snapped, her voice sharp as glass. Don't act like you care. You told me you didn't know about my mother. You told me it wasn't your decision. But it was, wasn't it? You signed the papers. You chose money over her life. Ethan's breath hitched, his face draining of color. Who told you that? Sophia's voice cracked as she cried out. Does it matter? Is it true? The silence that followed was unbearable. Ethan's eyes closed, his chest heaving as though every breath was a punishment. Finally, he whispered. Yes. Sophia staggered back, her hand flying to her mouth. Her sobs broke free, raw and unrestrained. Ethan reached for her, his voice breaking. I was young, arrogant, blinded by greed. I didn't think. I didn't realize, and by the time I did, it was too late. Sophia, I swear to you, if I could go back, if I could trade every dollar I made to give your mother one more day, I would. But Sophia's heart shattered. You let her die. You let my mother die, Ethan. And now you want me to believe in your love? How can I love the man who destroyed the person I loved most in this world? Her words cut through him, and Ethan collapsed back against the pillows, his tears flowing silently. Sophia sat in her car that night, her fingers clenched tightly around the steering wheel. The city lights blurred in her tear-filled eyes, but she wasn't crying anymore. No, this was something darker. Her chest was heavy with anger, betrayal, and the kind of exhaustion that went bone deep. The woman's voice from the phone call replayed in her head. I'm the person Ethan Miller hurt the most. Meet me tonight. Sophia almost didn't go. Part of her wanted to turn off her phone, crawl into bed, and shut the world out forever. But another part, the part that refused to be blind anymore, needed answers. So here she was. The meeting spot was an old diner on the edge of the city, dimly lit and almost empty. The neon sign buzzed faintly, casting a cold glow across the cracked parking lot. Sophia stepped inside, her stomach twisted with dread. In the back booth sat a woman, late 30s, strikingly beautiful but with a hardness in her eyes that spoke of battles fought and lost. She looked up when Sophia approached. You're Sophia. Her voice was flat, almost emotionless. Yes. Sophia sat down slowly, her pulse racing. And you are? The woman leaned back, folding her arms. My name is Claire. And once upon a time, I was Ethan Miller's fiancée. Sophia's breath caught, her heart plummeting into her stomach. Fiancée, she whispered. Claire nodded, a bitter smile tugging at her lips. Yes. We were engaged. We were going to build a life together. Or at least, that's what I thought. Sophia's voice trembled. What happened? Claire's eyes hardened. What always happens with Ethan? Power. Greed. He doesn't love people, Sophia. He uses them. At first, I believed I was different. He told me I was the only one who saw the real him. Sound familiar? Sophia flinched, the words striking too close to home. Claire continued, her voice dripping with anger. But when the biggest deal of his career was on the line, the same deal that cost your mother her treatment, he threw me aside. I begged him not to sign those papers, told him lives were at stake. And do you know what he said to me? Sophia shook her head, her throat too tight to speak. Claire's lips curled into a bitter sneer. He said, love doesn't pay the bills, Claire. Money does. Then he left me. Just like that. No goodbye. No closure. 1 minute I was his fiancée, the next I was nothing. Sophia's chest ached, her heart breaking in new ways. She wanted to deny it, to believe Claire was exaggerating, but the pain in the woman's eyes was undeniable. Claire leaned closer, her voice lowering. And now he's doing the same thing to you. Maybe he's softer now, maybe he's desperate, but don't fool yourself. Ethan Miller will always choose himself first. That's who he is. Sophia's tears spilled over, her voice trembling. I don't know what to believe anymore. He says he loves me. And when I look at him, I see a man who's broken, not a monster. Claire's expression softened for a moment, but it quickly hardened again. That's how he pulls you in. He makes you want to fix him. But you can't fix Ethan Miller, Sophia. You'll only lose yourself trying. Sophia stumbled out of the diner an hour later, her head spinning with Claire's words. The night air felt colder than ever, wrapping around her like chains. She drove back to the hospital in silence, her mind a storm of memories, Ethan's laughter, his tears, his arms around her, his whispered promises. Were they lies? Or had something inside him truly changed? When she reached Ethan's room, he was awake, waiting. His face lit up the second he saw her, but the hope in his eyes only deepened her pain. Sophia, he whispered, relief flooding his voice. You came back. She didn't move closer. She stood in the doorway, her body trembling, her eyes red from crying. I met someone tonight. Claire. Ethan froze. The color drained from his face, his body stiffening against the pillows. Claire, he whispered. Yes, Sophia said, her voice shaking. Your ex-fiancée. She told me everything, Ethan. About the deal. About how you left her. About the man you used to be. Ethan's eyes closed, his jaw tightening. He looked older suddenly, worn down by the weight of memories. I never wanted you to meet her, he murmured. Sophia's voice cracked. Why? Because she'd tell me the truth? Because she'd show me the man you really are? Ethan opened his eyes, tears glistening. No. Because I knew she still hated me. And I knew she'd use that hatred to poison you against me. Did you say it? Sophia demanded, her voice trembling with fury and grief. Did you tell her that love doesn't pay the bills? Did you throw her away for money? The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Ethan finally whispered, his voice breaking. Yes, I did. Sophia's knees buckled, her tears falling like a flood. Ethan reached out, desperation in his eyes. But Sophia, I swear to you, I'm not that man anymore. Losing Claire, building my empire, destroying lives, it left me empty. And then I found you. You changed everything. You made me want to live differently. You made me want to love differently. Sophia shook her head, sobbing. But how many people had to suffer before you decided to change? My mother. Claire. Daniel's family. How can I ever look at you without seeing their faces? Ethan's own tears fell, his voice raw with pain. Then look at me now. Not the man I was, but the man begging for a chance to be better. Please, Sophia. Don't let my past take away the only future I've ever wanted. The air in the hospital room turned heavy the moment Daniel stepped in. His eyes burned with a mix of fury and triumph, while Ethan, pale and weak in his bed, straightened with what little strength he had left. Sophia froze between them, her heart pounding. She had dreaded this moment, and now it was here. Daniel's voice cut through the silence like a blade. You see, Sophia? This is the man you've been crying over. The man you've been trying to save. My brother. Sophia gasped, turning sharply toward him. Your brother. Ethan's face tightened, his eyes closing for a moment as if the truth was a wound reopening. He whispered hoarsely, Daniel, don't. But Daniel ignored him. He stepped closer, his gaze locked on Sophia. Yes. Half-brother. Same father. Different mothers. But don't be fooled, the blood that runs in him is poison, and I've spent my whole life cleaning up the mess he left behind. Sophia's legs weakened, her mind spinning. You're brothers. And neither of you told me. Daniel's laugh was bitter, hollow. Of course he didn't tell you. He wanted to keep his past buried. Just like he buried my father's company, my mother's life, your mother's hope. That's what Ethan does, he buries people. Ethan forced himself to sit up, his breath ragged, but his eyes blazing. That's enough, Daniel. Daniel turned on him, his voice rising. No, Ethan, it's not enough. Not until she knows everything. Not until she knows what you did to me, to us, to everyone who ever trusted you. Sophia looked from one man to the other, her chest tightening. What is he talking about, Ethan? Ethan's voice cracked, weak but steady. It's true. Daniel is my brother. But what he's telling you isn't the full story. Daniel scoffed. Of course. There's always another version of the truth with you, isn't there? Always another excuse. Sophia's tears blurred her vision. Then tell me, Ethan. Tell me everything. No more half-truths. No more hiding. If you want me to even consider forgiving you, I need the whole story. Ethan's hands trembled as he gripped the sheets. He looked at Sophia, then at Daniel, his voice breaking. Our father was a cruel man. He pitted us against each other from the start. He wanted an heir to his empire, and he made sure we both knew only one of us could have it. Daniel's mother, she was kind. She loved him. But my mother, his voice faltered, pain flashing in his eyes. My mother was ambitious. She pushed me to fight, to win at any cost. And I did. But I lost myself in the process. Daniel's face twisted with rage. Don't you dare blame this on our father. You had a choice, Ethan. We all had choices. And you chose power. You chose greed. You chose to crush everyone in your way, including me. Sophia's heart ached as she watched the brothers unravel decades of bitterness in front of her. Ethan's voice trembled. I know. I was blind. I was ruthless. But everything changed when I lost it all. When the weight of my sins finally caught up with me, I realized what I'd done. I can't undo it, Daniel. I can't bring back your father's company. I can't heal your mother's pain. And I can't give Sophia back her mother. But I can change who I am now. Daniel's eyes burned, his fists clenched at his sides. Too late. It's always too late with you. Do you even hear yourself? You talk about change, about love, but people are dead, Ethan. People are broken. You can't just erase that with pretty words and a guilty conscience. Ethan's tears spilled over, his voice raw. I don't want to erase it. I want to carry it. Every scar, every mistake, every person I failed. I want to carry it so I never forget who I was and who I can never be again. Sophia's sobs filled the room. She wanted to believe Ethan's words, but Daniel's fury was justified too. Both men were broken in different ways, and she was caught in the storm between them. Daniel turned to her, his voice softer but laced with desperation. Sophia, you have to see it. He'll never change. He'll say all the right things, but underneath, he's the same man who destroyed everything he touched. If you stay with him, he'll destroy you too. Ethan's gaze locked on hers, his eyes pleading. No, Sophia. Don't listen to him. I'm not asking you to forget. I'm only asking you to believe that love can change a man. That your love changed me. Sophia's chest heaved as both men stared at her, waiting. Her hands shook, her mind torn apart by grief, anger, and love. Finally, she whispered, almost to herself. I don't know who to believe anymore. And I don't know how much more my heart can take. The sound of Ethan's monitor flatlining still echoed in Sophia's ears as the doctors rushed her out of the room. She stumbled into the cold hallway, her chest tight, her legs trembling as though they could no longer hold her. Her hands pressed against the wall, trying to keep herself from collapsing, tears streaming freely down her cheeks. Through the glass window of the ICU, she could see them working frantically. A doctor shouted orders, a nurse pushed the crash cart forward, and then came the sharp, jarring sound of the defibrillator charging. Clear. Ethan's body jolted violently. Sophia clutched her mouth, a sob tearing through her as Daniel appeared beside her. His face, usually hard and composed, was pale with shock. For the first time since she met him, the hatred in his eyes flickered with something else, fear. Is he? Sophia's voice broke, but she couldn't finish. Daniel didn't answer. He just stared at the scene inside, jaw clenched, his knuckles white as his hands curled into fists. Minutes dragged by like hours. Each second was a torment. Each sound from the ICU felt like a hammer striking Sophia's fragile heart. Finally, the monitor beeped again. Faint. Slow. But steady. Sophia nearly collapsed with relief, her tears falling harder now. Ethan was alive. Barely. The doctor stepped out a few minutes later, pulling off his gloves with weary eyes. He's stable, for now. But his heart is very weak. If he survives the next 48 hours, his chances improve. But I won't lie, he's on the edge. Sophia nodded through her sobs, her body shaking. She wanted to run inside, to hold Ethan's hand, but the doctor stopped her gently. He needs rest. No visitors for now. And so she sank into one of the cold plastic chairs in the waiting area, her body folding in on itself, grief weighing her down. Daniel sat across from her, silent. For a long time, neither spoke. The only sound was the faint hum of the hospital and Sophia's muffled cries. Finally, Daniel broke the silence, his voice hoarse. You love him. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. Sophia lifted her tear-streaked face, eyes red, lips trembling. She wanted to deny it, to protect herself, but the truth fell from her lips before she could stop it. Yes. God help me, yes. I love him. Daniel's jaw tightened, his fists curling again. His voice cracked with bitterness. Even after everything you know? After what he did to your mother, to my family, to all those people, you still love him? Sophia pressed her palms together, her shoulders shaking. I hate him for what he did. I hate him for the pain, for the lies. But when I look at him now, I see a man broken, a man drowning in his own guilt, a man who finally understands. And I don't know how to stop my heart from holding on to him. Daniel turned away, his eyes glistening though he tried to hide it. That's exactly what makes you different from him. You see the good in people, even when they don't deserve it. But Sophia, don't let that blind you. He may not survive. And even if he does, loving him may destroy you. Sophia buried her face in her hands, torn apart by the weight of it all. Hours passed. Nurses moved in and out of the ICU. Sophia didn't leave her chair, afraid that if she did, she'd miss some crucial moment. Daniel remained too, though he kept his distance, pacing the hallway like a man wrestling with demons of his own. At one point, Sophia whispered to herself, almost like a prayer. God, if you take him now, I'll never forgive you. Please, please don't take him yet. Her voice cracked on the last word, her entire being consumed by desperation. As midnight neared, the hallway grew quiet. Only the distant beep of machines and soft footsteps echoed. Sophia dozed off in her chair, her head resting against the wall. She dreamed of Ethan, his smile, his touch, his whisper of her name. And then the dream twisted. She saw her mother, standing in the shadows, shaking her head. Why are you giving your heart to the man who stole mine? Sophia gasped awake, her breath ragged, her body drenched in sweat. The clock read 2:13 a.m. And then she heard it, the sound of muffled voices. Not from the ICU, but from down the hall. She looked up and saw Daniel speaking with someone. A woman, tall and sharply dressed, her face partially hidden by the shadows. Sophia narrowed her eyes. The woman's voice was low but urgent. You know what needs to be done, Daniel. If he survives, he'll only ruin more lives. You said it yourself, you can't let him get away again. Sophia's blood ran cold. She leaned forward, straining to hear. Daniel's voice was harder now, almost breaking. I want justice. But killing him won't bring anyone back. The woman stepped closer, her tone sharper. Justice. Or vengeance. Don't fool yourself. If you don't finish what fate started, he will destroy her too. Sophia's heart pounded. Who was this woman? Why was she talking about Ethan's death as though it was something they could decide? And worst of all, what would Daniel choose? Sophia's breath caught in her throat as she strained to hear more. The woman's voice was sharp, almost venomous, but Daniel's tone carried the weight of a man torn apart. Sophia pressed a hand to her chest, her heart hammering so loudly she feared it would give her away. She leaned forward just a little more, desperate to see the woman's face. The stranger shifted in the dim light of the corridor. Her features came into view, high cheekbones, piercing eyes, her lips painted a deep shade of crimson. There was elegance in her presence, but also danger, like a blade hidden in silk. Sophia whispered under her breath, "Who are you?" The woman's words cut the silence again. "Daniel, I don't care about your guilt. I care about results. Ethan's existence is a disease. And you know as well as I do that if he survives, Sophia will never be free." Sophia's pulse quickened. The woman knew her name. Daniel's jaw clenched. Enough, Victoria. Sophia froze. Victoria. The name hung in the air like a ghost, sparking a memory Ethan had once shared, a woman he had wronged deeply, someone whose trust he had betrayed in his darkest days. Sophia's throat went dry. This was her. Victoria stepped closer to Daniel, her voice softening but still edged with ice. You and I both lost because of him. Don't let your weakness cloud what needs to be done. Justice isn't given. It's taken. Daniel lowered his head, torn apart by fury and doubt. Sophia couldn't take it anymore. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Both Daniel and Victoria turned sharply. Sophia's voice trembled, but her eyes blazed with fire. You want justice. You want vengeance. Then come for me, Not him. Because as long as I breathe, I will fight for him. The corridor fell silent, the weight of her words pressing down on all three of them. Victoria tilted her head, a cold smile touching her lips. Well, well, the devoted lover. I wondered how long it would take you to show yourself. Sophia's fists tightened at her sides. Who are you to decide whether he lives or dies? Victoria stepped forward, her heels clicking against the floor, her eyes locking onto Sophia's with unsettling calm. Who am I? I am the woman he promised to protect, and then abandoned. The woman who gave him everything, only to watch him burn it all for his greed. Ethan Miller didn't just ruin lives. He ruined mine. Sophia's heart twisted. What did he do to you? Victoria's gaze darkened. Her voice cracked, though she tried to hide it. He was supposed to save my company. Instead, he destroyed it to build his empire. My family lost everything. My father died believing me a failure. And Ethan? He walked away richer than ever. That was the day I swore I'd see him fall. Sophia's tears welled again. Each revelation felt like a dagger to her chest. But people can change, she whispered desperately. He's not the same man anymore. Victoria's laugh was sharp and bitter. Change? Men like Ethan don't change. They repent when they're cornered, when the blood on their hands finally suffocates them. But it's not real. It's survival. Sophia shook her head, her voice breaking. You're wrong. I've seen his heart. I've seen his regret. And I've seen his love. That's real. Victoria's smile faded. For a fleeting moment, something flickered in her eyes, doubt, maybe even pain. But it vanished quickly. You're blinded by love. And love, Sophia, will destroy you just like it destroyed me. Daniel finally stepped between them, his voice low but firm. Enough. This isn't the place. Sophia, you don't understand. Victoria has every right to hate him. And maybe she's right. Maybe Ethan surviving means more pain for everyone. Sophia's voice rose with defiance. No. You don't get to play God with his life. Neither of you. Whatever Ethan has done, whatever mistakes he's made, that's for him to answer to. Not you. And not her. Tears streamed down her face as she stepped closer to Daniel. If you want to hate him, fine. If you want to hate me for loving him, fine. But if you let him die, then you're no better than the man you claim he is. Daniel's face hardened, but his eyes glistened with moisture. Her words pierced something deep inside him, something he had buried under years of anger. For a moment, silence blanketed them all. Finally, Victoria's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, her jaw tightening. Without another word, she turned to leave. As she walked away, she paused and looked back at Sophia. Love may feel like salvation. But trust me, darling, in the end, it's a knife that cuts the deepest. Her heels clicked against the tile until her figure disappeared into the shadows. Sophia stood trembling, the echo of those words rattling inside her chest. The blaring alarm echoed down the sterile hallway as nurses rushed past Sophia, their shoes slapping against the polished floor. She ran after them, her chest burning, tears already streaming down her face. Ethan, she screamed, trying to push into the ICU, but a nurse blocked her. You can't, please, you have to wait outside. No. Sophia sobbed, struggling against the woman's arms. I can't leave him. Please, he needs me. Daniel caught her before she collapsed, holding her trembling body against his chest. His own face was pale, his jaw clenched tight as he watched the scene inside. Through the glass, they saw Ethan's body jolt under the shock of the defibrillator. His face was ghostly pale, lips bluish, his chest rising and falling only with the help of machines. Again, the doctor barked. Clear. Ethan's body convulsed once more. Sophia's nails dug into Daniel's arm as she screamed, Fight, Ethan. Please, fight for me. Minutes felt like lifetimes. Then, finally, the monitor let out a slow, steady beep. Weak, but there. Sophia fell to her knees, sobbing in relief, her hands clasped together as if in prayer. After what felt like hours, a nurse approached her. His stabilized, barely. But his conscious. For now, you can see him. Sophia didn't wait. She stumbled into the room, her legs trembling beneath her. The sight shattered her. Ethan lay there, fragile and broken, tubes and wires tangled around him. His once powerful frame seemed so small now, his chest rising shallowly with each strained breath. His eyes fluttered open, searching until they found her. Sophia, he whispered, his voice raspy. She rushed to his side, taking his cold hand in both of hers, pressing it to her lips. I'm here. I'm right here. Don't you dare leave me. A faint smile tugged at his lips. I was afraid. I'd never see you again. Sophia's tears fell onto his hand. Don't talk like that. You're going to make it. You have to. We have too much unfinished, too many promises you still need to keep. Ethan's eyes glistened as he lifted a trembling hand to her face. His touch was weak, but it carried all the love he could muster. I need to tell you something. Before it's too late. No, she sobbed, shaking her head. Save your strength. We can talk when you're better. But Ethan's gaze was steady, urgent. Please. I can't carry it anymore. Sophia held her breath as his words spilled out, broken and halting. I lied to myself for years, told myself the money, the power, the empire mattered more than people. More than love. But when I met you, I realized what I'd thrown away. Your mother's death. Daniel's pain. Victoria's hatred, it's all on me. Every face, every tear. I see them when I close my eyes. His chest heaved, his voice cracking. I'm not afraid of dying, Sophia. I'm afraid of leaving this world without you knowing that the one true thing in my entire life is you. My love for you. It's real. It's all I have left to give. Sophia's sobs shook her body. She pressed her forehead to his, her tears mingling with his. I believe you. God help me, I believe you. And I love you, Ethan. I don't care about the money, the mistakes, the lies. I just want you. Only you. Ethan's lips trembled, his eyes closing as if her words brought him peace. Then promise me that if I don't make it, you won't spend your life drowning in my sins. Promise me you'll live. For both of us. Sophia shook her head violently. Don't you dare ask me that. Don't you dare talk like you're leaving me. You'll live, Ethan. You have to. Behind her, Daniel stood silently in the doorway. He had heard everything. His expression was unreadable, torn between anger and something else, something softer, heavier. Sophia turned, her voice fierce despite her tears. Daniel, if you ever cared for your brother, even once in your life, then please, let go of your hate. If he dies tonight, I can't carry it alone. Daniel's throat tightened. He looked at Ethan, broken and pale, and for a moment his eyes softened with something that looked almost like grief. But before he could respond, Ethan coughed violently, his body shaking. The machines beeped erratically again. Sophia clung to him, screaming his name. Ethan! Please, stay with me. The sharp, piercing sound of the flatline filled the ICU. Sophia's scream cut through the room, raw and guttural, as doctors swarmed around Ethan's bed. Charge to 200, one shouted. The defibrillator paddles pressed against his chest. His body jolted violently. Sophia's trembling hands clutched the railing, her face wet with tears. Please, Ethan. Please don't leave me. Again, the doctor barked. Another shock. Another jolt. Still nothing. Sophia's knees buckled, but Daniel caught her before she collapsed. She didn't even realize she was gripping his shirt, sobbing into it, as if her own soul was being ripped apart. Don't let him die, she begged through broken cries. Not like this. Not without a chance to make things right. Daniel's face was pale, his own chest rising heavily. He wanted to stay stone, to stay angry, but the sight of his brother's lifeless body shattered something deep inside him. Clear. The paddles pressed down one final time. For a heartbeat, silence. Then, a beep. Weak. Fragile. But there. Sophia gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Ethan's chest rose and fell again, shallow but steady. He was alive. Hours passed. The storm of chaos finally calmed. Ethan remained unconscious, his body fighting desperately, but he was no longer at death's door. Sophia sat by his bedside, her fingers gently laced through his. She hadn't moved, hadn't slept, her swollen eyes fixed on his face. Every breath he took felt like a miracle. Daniel lingered near the window, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke, his voice rough. "You really do love him." Sophia turned to him, her voice hoarse from crying. "Yes. With everything I am. Even if it breaks me." Daniel let out a shaky breath. "All my life, I thought hate was the only thing keeping me alive. Hate for him, hate for what he took from me. But watching you tonight, I realized hate doesn't keep you alive. It just makes you empty." He paused, swallowing hard. "I don't know if I can ever forgive him. But maybe it's time I stop trying to destroy him." Sophia's tears welled again, but this time they were softer. "That's all I ask. Not forgiveness. Just let him try to be better." Daniel gave her a long look, then finally nodded. "For you. I'll try." As dawn broke, golden light filtered through the blinds, touching Ethan's pale face. His eyelids fluttered, his lips parting slightly. Sophia leaned forward instantly. "Ethan, I'm here. Can you hear me?" His eyes opened slowly, hazy but alive. His gaze landed on her, and a weak smile tugged at his lips. "You're still here." Sophia pressed her forehead to his, her tears falling freely. "I'll always be here. You're not allowed to get rid of me that easily." Ethan's chest rose with a trembling laugh, then a cough. "I thought I was gone. But all I saw was you. You pulled me back." Her sobs shook her body, but her smile glowed through them. "No, Ethan. Love pulled you back. The kind of love that doesn't give up, even when it hurts." Ethan's hand squeezed hers weakly, but it was enough to send warmth flooding through her. Later that morning, as Sophia finally stepped out into the fresh air, Daniel joined her. For a moment, they stood in silence, watching the city wake to a new day. "He's got a long road ahead," Daniel said quietly. Sophia nodded. "So do I. So do we all. But maybe that's the point. To walk it together, no matter how broken we are." Daniel looked at her, then away, his jaw tightening as he whispered, "You remind me of my mother. She used to say the same thing." Sophia touched his arm gently. "Then honor her by living it." For the first time, Daniel didn't pull away. That night, Sophia returned to Ethan's side. He was resting, his breathing steadier. She held his hand and whispered softly, "You offered me $1 million once for a night. But you've given me something worth more than all the money in the world. You gave me love. And for that, I'll stay. No matter how hard it gets." A single tear slid from Ethan's closed eye, as if he heard every word. Sophia kissed his forehead, her heart both heavy and full. Final scene, suspenseful but hopeful ending. Ethan's future was uncertain. The scars of his past still lingered, shadows that wouldn't disappear overnight. But for the first time, he wasn't fighting alone. Sophia's love became his lifeline. Daniel's reluctant truce opened a door to healing. And the ghosts of the past, though never forgotten, began to lose their power. As Sophia sat in the dim hospital room, Ethan's hand in hers, she whispered a final prayer. "Maybe love doesn't fix everything, but it gives us a reason to keep trying." And in the quiet that followed, Ethan stirred, whispering her name, proof that love, fragile yet fierce, could pull even the most broken soul back from the edge.